Hunterace versus Jarla is about to get underway here in day number 2 of week number 4 here in Grandmasters, and I'm taking a look at the deck lists here, and it seems once again as we head into our first rematch here in European Grandmasters that Hunterace has seemed to get another unfavorable here versus Jarla. Now, I have been of the opinion that Rogue is typically favored versus Warrior, but I do not think that Water Rogue is necessarily favored versus Warrior. I think it requires a particular setup with a Spirit of the Shark.
I mean, I'm looking at these deck lists. You know, this is the first rematch of Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region. Hunterace has played Jarla in the same exact class matchup, Rogue versus Warrior. He was unfavored then, and he managed to clutch it out 2-0 in the unfavored spot. Yes, he's back in an uphill battle, but if anyone is going to win an uphill battle, it's going to be Hunterace.
And I'm taking a look at this secondary deck in particular with Harrison Jones, Geppetto Joybuzz, and Togwaggle scheme. And I'm kind of liking what Hunterace is cooking up here in order to take down this matchup. I think that when it really boils down to it, that Hunterace has ways of beating Warrior in this matchup, and that all of them revolve around Spirit of the Shark in some way. And so I look at this Togwaggle scheme, Harrison Jones, Geppetto Joybuzz package, and I'm looking at High Spirit and Togwaggle. If Hunterace isn't under pressure, that he could easily find himself in a favorable spot.
You also look at the cards that he took out, including Waggle Pick, which is a card that Warrior heavily wants to beat. You see tons of weapon destruction in Warrior lists specifically for that weapon. Hunterace is just going to dodge that. You talked about yesterday, Hunterace wants to be in spots where he just can't automatically lose the game.
Yeah.
So he just took out his Waggle Pick, so weapon destruction doesn't make him automatically lose the game.
It's a very weird looking thing, but honestly, I like it when I think about it. And taking a look at Jarla's deck, I mean, at this point, I might firmly just say that Jarla has been the best Warrior player that we have seen in the European region. He has played so good, and I love his deck list every time I see him.
I mean, I absolutely agree. If you look at yesterday, he just piloted every single turn for multiple turns incredibly well. You know, he found wins in spots where no one else would have. You look at his list, he probably should be favored against Hunterace in this. He isn't running that many weapon destruction techs. I think overall, he has a good shot at winning this series.
So what are some of the key factors I'm looking for here? I mean, so you and I have differing opinions on it. I have thought that in most spots that Rogue is favored. Now, when I've said that, I have typically referred to decks that can have a little bit more staying power. Hunterace's decks, his staying power is that it can continue to churn value, not necessarily that it's continuing to pressure very hard. And I think that pressuring in a good way is one of the keys to beating Warrior. So, you know, Pogo Hopper Rogue comes to my mind in that regard.
You know, I think of the matchup in a totally different perspective. I actually think that Jarla is the aggressive deck in this spot. I think that he has just a ton of tools in the early game. You know, we actually see his hand right now. This is a very good hand for this kind of matchup. You want to go 1 on turn 1, 3 on turn 3, have a Militia Commander and other rush minions, and then kill them with a Blastmaster Boom. I wouldn't be surprised to see him keep this entire hand because of that strategy.
Wow, even the Ziliax.
Even the Ziliax.
To guarantee that he gets a Militia Commander in that spot?
Oh, he decides to, well, both of them.
Well, that's the thing is, when you talk to Warrior players, their opinions are going to differ on how to play the matchup as well.
Absolutely.
And in my opinion, I think if Jarla gets too aggressive, it doesn't always work out for him. And so for me playing Warrior personally, this has just been my experience. Some of my biggest ways that I win are being able to tempo an Omega Devastator, and to have that be a lead on board. Militia Commander has been very important to that. But honestly, one of my highest win rate cards has just been straight up Wrench Caliber in the matchup to be able to leverage board position.
Absolutely. I mean, Wrench Caliber is quite good for a lot of reasons. It kills Hunterace's minions. Remember, all of his stuff has 3 health. Blink Fox, Hench Clan Burglar. Pretty much everything that Hunterace wants to do is countered by that weapon. Hunterace has no weapon destruction, so Wrench Caliber is a guaranteed 2-for-1. In the later stages of the game, those bombs that Jarla shuffle into Hunterace's deck matter for 2 reasons. First of all, it just kills Hunterace. Secondly, Blastmaster Boom is incredible. It's one of the best Hearthstone cards when it's active.
And so my question then is, I also agree with that. That's been a big important factor in me closing games. Why is Jarla pitching it away?
That is something that I have no idea on. I think it's very good.
Just want stronger early tools?
I imagine that has to be his reasoning.
Woodcutter's Axe, that's not good. Rogue has a natural weapon for its hero power.
Really quickly, Woodcutter's Axe works with Goblin Lackey, right?
That is, it's an interaction I have not encountered. It gives a...
I believe it does.
So Goblin Lackey gains +1 attack and rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say like rush this turn.
Nope.
Okay, well I think it would activate on that then.
Yep. So that is what Hunterace might be considering.
Does have a Ziliax in his hand.
No.
There you go. That's probably it. Yeah, 5 attack Ziliax. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, 5-4 Ziliax is a lot better than 3-2 Ziliax. Or I'm sorry, 5-3 Ziliax.
I think this is one of the things that I really like about the Burgle package in Rogue right now is that it's very skill intensive and it actively benefits the Rogue player. Henchclan Burglar, for example, can give you spells way outside of Rogue's normal range. It's something that a warrior will often just discard from their mind because it's just such an unlikely scenario.
How could you play around it?
Yeah, you can't play around it. I mean, we look back at day one where RDU was playing versus Jarla. RDU had a hunting party out of nowhere, and it's kind of the same situation in Rogue, but it just happens way more often. Remember, that was off of a Shimmerfly, but Hunterace can actively discover, which is 3 times as better than just a totally random spell.
Yeah. I mean, Henchclan Burglar, I feel like this is just, every single time I have this card in my opening hand, I never want to mulligan this thing. It's very Azure Drake-esque in its feel, where it's just a sizable, threatening body that provides you with an extra card.
I think versus Warrior, it's especially good.
Yeah.
It's a card, like, it just contests the early game quite well. Yes, you're looking at Militia Commander killing it, but you can still just ping off the 2-1 with your dagger.
The golden animation rated.
I don't think this is too hard for Hunterace. I imagine Rain of Toads is just the highest value card.
Yeah, I think there's some merit to regenerate for, you know, a combo consideration, but I think with Shadow Step in hand, you're probably not worried about having that covered.
With an Edwin, regenerate could be a consideration. But I agree with Hunterace. Rain of Toads is just the pick.
Yeah, and I think going Vase here, higher merit. The 3/3 and the 4/3 represent about the same.
Yep.
If you trade to keep the body of the Burglar around, what that means is you're saying, I think this can connect twice. I think that's foolish. The only way that this attack, to me, does not make sense is if Jarla is truly the aggressor in the matchup, which right now he does not have the liberty of being.
I mean, the way he mulliganed, too, I think he doesn't think he's the aggressor.
And considering how well Jarla has played and just how strong his survival plans have been, I don't blame him. I think this is absolutely to his paramount strength, and I think there's more than one way to get there. And Woodcutter Axe acting as its auxiliary use right now, combo activator.
Hunterace's hand is just so good.
Just value.
It's just so good. I mean, we have the next 10 turns of the game available to us to just spend all of our mana.
Yeah, like if he didn't draw a card for like the next 5 or 6 turns, he would actually be able to keep playing stuff.
Yeah, no, till the end of the game.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Shadow Stepping the Miscreant in this spot.
I don't really want to. I feel like with Heist Baron Togwaggle, when you're looking at this matchup, Shadow Stepping a Togwaggle is pretty much the best thing you can do. We're not in any danger of dying, so we don't need to Shadow Step for life. We can just Shadow Step for a prolonged game, I'd say.
You've often been in favor of Shadow Stepping these lackeys about every time I've played Rogue with you.
Yes.
And I think that it explains it to me right now. It's just his hand is so stacked, you don't need more lackeys. You need big, fantastic things to happen at this point.
Yeah, I think that's right. Jarla wants to take this game long. Did you see how he mulliganed?
What now?
He does not want to be the aggressor. That means that Hunterace is kind of forced to take the game long. With Heist Baron Togwaggle, you're totally fine doing that.
I do think that's the one card that really can break the matchup wide open for Hunterace. It's Heist Baron. I'd mainly focus on Spirit of the Shark because it benefits everything in your deck, but Heist Baron Togwaggle is the big payoff.
I think Heist Baron Togwaggle is the card that makes the matchup playable for Rogue, I would say. I mean, without it, you're pretty much looking at specifically Edwin in the early games as your easiest route to victory. With Heist Baron Togwaggle, you have multiple ways to win.
All right, I want to see how this turn pans out. I mean, you said Goblin Lackey earlier, and now I just want to see it. Even if it's not the best play, I just want to see that because it's cool.
You know, I think from Hunterace's perspective, he wants to save these lackeys. He's got a Shadow Step for his Togwaggle, but what that means is he's going to need a lackey for both Togwaggles.
So
he's
turn
got
7,
2.
turn 8.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just probably going to save those lackeys exactly for turn 7, turn 8. I'm sure he spots the silly axe plus the woodcutter's axe. That was the roll that he was hovering over.
First lackey used.
This one's a real page turner.
You know, I've never actually heard that card enter play.
He's using both of his lackeys. It's
you know,
actually quite interesting to me. I imagine he's thinking about Edwin this turn. That has to be his consideration.
Yeah, I think the Edwin this turn puts you in a position where your brawls all have good payoffs. Is what I'm thinking is the case. So in this spot, if Edwin wins a brawl, or if a lackey wins the brawl, you get a big follow-up, or you can Shadow Step now, guarantee that you land the Heist Baron next turn. You get the payoff of the axe, you get an Edwin, you get to kill the minion. Like, this is just a big turn.
Yep. 8-8, good.
Yeah.
I mean, Hunterace is just saying here, if instead of going to the long game, he's just going to kill him over 2. He doesn't need to do Haste Baron Togwaggle.
The timing here is perfect because Jarla, I feel like, very often with the way his mana was set up, one of your most common turn 6s against a big minion as warrior is going to be shield block, armor up, shield slam. And the Edwin is exactly 1 health outside of that range. It's a terrible brawl turn. There's no Ziliak's turn here. It's strong. Dinomatic's not good. Militia Commander's not good. He's taken away, I think, literally every single one of Jarla's good plays, including Dr. Boom Mad Genius, because the armor gets shredded immediately.
I think that there's one play that answers this 8-8. It is shield block, into shield slam, but that is so unlikely that Hunterace is saying, that's not there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to play around that, you know,
Props to you.
Just quit playing Edwin at that point.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to play around Sap every single time it's in your opponent's hand, it's not going to work that way.
Yeah, sometimes Edwin gets answered. Most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's not. Sounds good to me.
You played around shield block, armor up, shield slam. That's the best you're going to do.
Yeah.
And the pressure's on right now, too. Jarla has no minions in play that turn. This was a great setup. Granted, it is fairly obvious, but I think that Hunterace, very much like Board Control, I talked to him about a lot about wanting to find the iteration that makes sense. It just makes a lot of sense to wait on the Edwin in the spot, even if he could have played it earlier.
I just want to point out that Jarla did not take a 50-50 brawl there. I think this ties back to his game versus RDU, where he took a 25%er on his brawl. I think he's very good at analyzing what spots he's in, and he's saying, you know, I'm not in an unfavored enough spot to just take a 50-50 to lose this game. He's still putting his odds at higher than 50% to win, even without using the brawl.
Yeah, and I agree with him with a Militia Commander in hand. Pretty easy turn here for Hunterace.
Yeah,
the Shadow Step being gone, I mean, that is still a big question mark for me, is you get 1 Heist Baron Togwaggle this way. So in game number 1, he says, I need to pressure, I need to get tempo, and I need to leverage that for the rest of the game. So now I'm curious, after Jarla sees this turn, if he still thinks that 50%'s, you know, a likelihood. And you're probably not going to think that after you see this Vendetta.
Yeah, I think that Jarla might just be ripping a brawl here. You have to, right? How else do you stay alive?
Well,
Militia Commander, but that still doesn't clear a 5-5.
Militia Commander leaves you taking 6. And so I think if you're going to rip a brawl here for Jarla, you have to look at, am I throwing a minion and a coin into it as well? Like, I think notching it up from a 33% to a 50% at that point, where either the lackey or your own minion lives, is like, that's the 50% Jarla was looking at last turn.
And I know Jarla is thinking about that because he did the exact same thing yesterday against RDU.
I also just know he's thinking that because I'm looking at his hand and I'm looking at his opponent's board and going, wow, 50% win rate. That looks pretty good here. And it's not even like a 50% win rate. It's like 50% to just simply not die.
Yeah. I mean, I just agree with you. I think that Jarla's in a pretty tough spot. If he doesn't answer this board, Brawl is the only thing that can answer this board right now.
Yeah, and so the 2 questions for me, Jarla, I think, is looking at Brawl. The first question is, do I need to add a minion to it? And then if I don't, what's the best chance I have to actually get out of this? And so if Jarla's shield blocking here, that tells me that Jarla thinks a shield slam draw can get him out of this game.
That makes sense. If he goes shield block into a shield slam, he can clear both the 5-5 and the 9-5.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I agree with that. I think the Brawl is quite powerful here.
I'm just looking at it from a perspective of this turn, where if you Brawl, I think your Brawl continues to stay good. You will take damage as a result, but the shield block offsets that. And then number 2 is if you do draw shield slam that turn, you get to keep a Brawl in the face of your opponent having a Wondrous Wand.
I mean, one thing to consider, Hunterace is not running Eviscerates in his main board, right? Jarla knows that, so he's a lot more comfortable taking damage in these kinds of stages of the game, because he's just not going to die to the overwhelming burst in the late stages.
I mean, he's playing against Hunterace's Water Rogue as well. He knows that Sea Giant's in there. I imagine a Sea Giant turn is your ideal Brawl. If you get forced on a Brawl before that, I imagine it feels bad.
Yep. Hunterace is just going with Sea Giant.
It's so funny. When I messaged him about this deck list, I was like, why is a Sea Giant in here? He goes, what do you mean? It's big. And I go, why don't you just put in, you know, this other efficient minion? And he's like, well, Sea Giant's bigger. And I go, but what is that for? He goes, well, so that the minion's bigger. And I was like, all right, thanks. Usually he gives me long, thoughtful explanations on things. And every time I've seen him play it, or really anyone else play it for that matter, it's just really been a big minion. It's been like 6 to 9 mana, and it's just been an 8-8. That's it. Nothing spectacular.
I mean, I just find it really funny. Hunterace is someone that goes in depth about every single one of his card choices. If you remember at the World Championships, he ran Hinge Clan Sneak, which is a 3-mana 3/3 with stealth. That is a card that I haven't picked in an arena game, and it was seeing play and won World Championships. You asked him about it after the tournament was over, he gives you an entire paragraph, not even a paragraph, an essay on why that card was vital to his deck.
Yeah.
So it's just really funny to see him call Sea Giant big.
I've told the story a couple times, but when we always interview the players in a championship setting like that, and Hunterace, it was actually the first time that he had been at a championship for an interview, and he walks in the room, and we're looking at deck lists, and Brian Kibler goes, so talk to me about your Shaman deck. And he's like, oh, and he goes on like a 20-minute explanation where he describes not only the purpose of every single card in the deck, but how they got to the number of copies there, cards that they tried that didn't work, cards that they wanted to run but they didn't have time to test. And after everything was said and done, he had explained every possible thing about the deck that he could. And we were like, all right, I guess we don't have any more questions.
This guy's
just, he's very thoughtful on every single card choice.
I mean, it sounds kind of funny, but, you know, it just speaks about Hunterace as a player. He's someone that thoroughly analyzes every single choice he can have.
And so picture back to holding the Brawl. A second one shows up now. So Jarla, I think, a little bit, you know, uneasy about that particular drawer. It's like, wow, if I were to use this first Brawl, I'd be in good shape. But the way that I'm looking at it now is that he has Dr. Boom in hand, he still has Coin, he's got Warpath, and he gets to Brawl a Sea Giant turn.
The other thing that I want to point out is if he didn't draw exactly that Brawl, saving this first Brawl was genius.
Yeah.
You know, this is a spot where he needs a Brawl. He had saved that Brawl for this spot.
He's like, Shield Slam as a draw can answer something right now. Shield Slam as a draw later, very unlikely to answer the biggest threat, Sea Giant.
Yeah, I just think it's a good portioning of his resources.
He's so good at, like, seeing the Warrior future.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking maybe 3 turns ahead. He's looking 11.
Oh, yeah, I think that Jarla actually has the best macro gameplay!
Oh, no!
Ah! But there's always that chance! It is the strongest one! It is supposed to win a Brawl!
I think he's just... I don't want to say he's just dead, but we're
he's extremely dead. He's going to 16. Half of that's taken out on board, and Hunterace has yet to use the Wondrous Wand.
Oh my god, he's just dead over 2.
Second Waggle Pick is drawn. There's so much burn. Leroy ends it. No Leroy.
Not it. Novice Engineer into Leroy does not end it.
No,
will be 1 off.
Mana.
Yep. 1 off with the dagger, too.
Jarla's saving coin and coining the armor as well. He's like, I don't want to die to Leroy and dagger.
That sounds right to me.
When I was practicing a Bomb Warrior matchup with Gallon and Purple last week, and in a Bomb Warrior mirror match, I have often found coin. If you do not coin out a 3-drop, it just stays in your hand. It does nothing. And I had suggested coin armor up because you A, need hand space, and B, you want to be able to shield slam very efficiently, and then C, if you're not shield slamming very efficiently, what ends up happening is coin stays in your hand the entire game, and you actually just lose 2 armor.
Really quickly, I want to rephrase that. Admiral was considering coin hero power turn 1. Now,
turn 1!
My immediate thought was, you're dumb. This is a very stupid suggestion. And then we ended up playing about 5 games. It was like turn 8, turn 9. We had a coin in our hand every single time.
Every time.
If we had just gone coin armor up, we would have had 2 more armor. I think it actually mattered one of the games, too. It
mattered one of the games, too. I drew a bomb, and I exactly died. All right. Round 2. So in this situation, Jarla has to consider with a bump for the extra card into Brawl, which cuts the percentage of you winning the Brawl. I'm saying winning with quotey fingers. You just really don't want Sea Giant to survive again.
I think that an extra card isn't worth the 15% that you lose in this kind of spot. We have a Dr. Boom, so we're good on value. Yeah. I think that we just want the highest percent odds that we do not immediately die to a Sea Giant.
I mean, right now we're looking at 60% versus 50%. If you attack a minion, there's a 50% chance Sea Giant lives.
Oh, I even think Blink Fox is a bad outcome. I think we're looking at 25% versus 40%.
Sure. I think Blink Fox is a bad outcome, but I think that if you have to pick between Sea Giant and Blink Fox,
they're both going to kill you.
Maybe. There's a shield block here.
Sea Giant is for sure going to kill you. And
what's the percent? Yes! Let's go. The attack. Now, if Jarla truly believed, you just brawl.
No! Yikes. Oh, we're just dead now, right? And there's
He's-
nothing. Yep.
He will die over 2 turns in this situation.
You wonder if
14
first for a turning move.
Yeah, absolutely dead. Hunterace just pressures in game number 1. Actually just efficient minions. And I'm telling you, time and again, it feels to me like Rogue is favoring the matchup. Granted, we saw some pretty nightmare outcomes for Jarla in this spot, but they're going to come up eventually.
He said he doesn't need 2 Togwaggles, he just needs to kill his opponent. That's what he did.
I think that was wise, recognizing that his game 1 deck list has a very finite amount of resources, but that the resources are so threatening that if you can force removal from Jarla or put him in a position where you can obtain a read from the lack of your opponent's removal or how your opponent uses removal, it gives you insight into the game. And I think that the Edwin gave him the insight he needed. He was like, my opponent's hand is weak right now. They're going to have to take risks with Brawl. I'm going to push as a result.
I like how Jarla saved his Brawl. He ended up getting punished for it. That's how Hearthstone sometimes works.
Yeah, that to me is... I read a quote the other day from a pro player in card games. His name is Ben Stark. And he said that it's often a skill-intensive game, not necessarily a skill-rewarding game. And that to me is a quote that really sticks out as a great way to describe card games, I think, in general, is you have to be focused on the skill aspect of it because when it matters the most. You can't be focused on the luck aspect because that's not a factor you can control in that regard. And I think that looking at a game like that, Jarla saving the Brawl is a very skill-intensive play. He knows the situations he needs to brawl in and to be successful as a result.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can make the best play in a card game and you'll still lose. That's how card games kind of work.
Yeah, but it's the edge. To me, it's that's part of the appeal and part of the mystery that was there. I got word in my headset of which deck that they had swapped to, and I just wanted to make sure it's right. I believe Hunterace is on the secondary deck. It's the one that contains a Togwaggle Scheme, a Harrison Jones, and a Geppetto Joybuzz. He removes 2 Waggle Picks and a Sea Giant.
I think that makes a lot of sense to me. Going back to game 1, I said that his game plan was to shuffle Togwaggles and he didn't go for it. I think with this secondary list with Togwaggle Scheme, I think he's going to go a lot more into that game plan.
I think he has the ability, to lean into the same style of pressure plan, but I think just more efficient ways of recovering a game state if that doesn't work.
Yes, he just opens up more avenues for himself.
Over on Jarla's side, if you take a look at his secondary and tertiary decks, they do not necessarily help in the situation efficiently. I believe he will be sticking to his main, and I've just received word that is correct. So primary deck for Jarla, it is once again, we're using specialist format here in Grandmasters. I'm going to add a little footnote here, that QR code in the top right that is functioning. If you want to play this deck exactly, you can scan that. Prevents you from having to be, I don't know, too lazy to just use a deck code. Now you can be even lazier and use a QR code.
You know, the deck code feature was one of the best features in Hearthstone for everyone that is lazy. I'm very lazy for that.
Deck code gamer here.
Yeah, exactly.
I never use deck codes.
That's what I'm going to do for Las Vegas, man. Send me the nutty decks. Looking at Jarla's list, I think that he's still going to be in a good spot. I think he'll be in a worse spot than game 1. But I think it should still be okay.
I honestly feel like this is such a different take on Rogue for how a Rogue versus Warrior matchup works as well. Because I feel like Hunterace's deck is just one of those decks that can pressure and it can get value, but it doesn't do either one exceptionally well. It's just that it can do both. And that to me just feels like the kind of deck Hunterace likes, a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at how he kept his hand. He kept an Edwin Van Cleef off the coin. You don't see that very often, I would say. I think it's right. It's just something you don't see very often.
Just a big minion.
It's a huge minion.
And we saw the timing of it from Hunterace too. I'm curious what his thoughts exactly on the timing of Edwin Van Cleef are. You know, I see a lot of players that go in for it very quickly. I see players, depending on the situation, they have to think about when Edwin comes down to play around stuff the most. I think back to the Swids game where he was first playing Rogue and he was very patient with an Edwin versus Casey because Casey had 2 Deadly Shots in the deck. He got a Novice Engineer next to it and turned a situation of losing to Deadly Shot into a 50-50 versus Deadly Shot.
I think versus Warrior, it doesn't really matter when you play Edwin. Obviously, the earlier the better, but if you play it turn 6 or turn 7, as long as the Warrior doesn't have enough armor to just safely shield slam it, they just can't really answer
Right,
it.
it's like a contextualized thing. Yeah. The objective on timing is opponent's armor count. That's a very weird kind of timing.
Yeah, it's a lot different from a normal Hearthstone game that's about tempo, I would say.
Yeah. Tempo good.
Tempo great.
But sometimes tempo means less than...
Sometimes it means summoning a 12-12 on turn 9.
Yeah.
And then killing your opponent with it.
A really good quote from Strife Crow that opened my eyes on the game a lot was, I met him at the airport about It's a little over a year ago now, and he had just started, playing and getting a bit more competitive at the game again. He was very dominant early on. He's one of the America's Grandmasters right now, and he took a step back from the scene just to kind of, enjoy his life and get focused and figure out where he wanted to go. And he was like telling me about Hearthstone. He goes, Hearthstone is just purely a tempo game. Because you think about a lot of card games, there's typically an aggro, a combo, and a control style of deck, and those exist in Hearthstone. But really, what they refer to is early game tempo, mid game tempo, and late game tempo, or contain my opponent's tempo in the sake of control. I feel like you're just simply trying to contain your opponent's board until you hit critical mass and explode. I feel like in this situation, Hunterace has the ability to play all aspects of the tempo game.
Going back to tempo, I think it's actually a really complicated concept. It's not just about what you want to do, it's about what your opponent wants to do. When I think about tempo, I'm thinking about not only how do I advance my own game plan, but how do I limit my opponent's game plan. That's really how you should be phrasing Hearthstone as a whole.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that being able to set up a situation where your opponent has trouble making their best play, that is one of the ideal situations.
Absolutely. Hunterace just makes a 4-4 here. I think it's right.
Timing's right. No armor, killing an Acolyte. Acolyte, I feel like, is the enemy of Rogue, where it just feels like it just sucks cards out of the hand and gives them to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you're right. Another reason that Edwin on turn 3 is particularly good in this spot is because Jarla uses coin. That means there's no militia commander that can punish it. If you have two things in play, so it's going to be a 4-4 and a 4-3 probably next turn, militia commander gets a lot worse.
Oh, yeah. You're looking at taking some damage in the meantime. So Jarla cycles the first shield block with, I think, a nod to the regards that he has Weapons Project in the deck and that he just needs more gas.
Book of Spectres for all the dice. Farsight too.
Book of Spectres is insane in this rogue deck.
I agree.
The spells are 2 Backstab, 2 Shadow Step. The Waggle picks are gone, and we have a Togwaggle scheme. There are only 5 non-minion cards in Hunterace's deck. That's like Summoner Mage. You had 2 Book of Spectres and 2 Conjurers calling.
I mean, and you look at his deck list, and none of the spells are the important cards.
I'm sorry, there's 2 Vendettas as well. Excuse me.
Okay, so 7 cards total that are...
7 total after his side deck.
Okay.
But 2 of them come out in the form of Waggle picks. Yeah, so 7. Togwaggle scheme, 2 Backstab, 2 Shadow Step, 2 Vendetta.
And it's something to remember with Book of Spectres that Waggle pick can still be pulled off of Book of Spectres. It is spells.
Oh, is you discard spells?
Yeah, so you can actually draw a Waggle pick.
Oh.
Yes, I mean, if you want to highlight over this card and just see it really quickly.
I thought it was just non-minions. I guess because Mage doesn't really have...
Yeah, they don't... It's Aluneth, and that was not being played with Book of Spectres. They didn't really combo very well together.
What do you mean? With Aluneth, all you wanted to draw was minions, not your fireballs and frostbolts.
Could we get a real quick look at Book of Spectres? I just want to make 100% sure that that's right.
Oh, I hope Gallon's wrong so badly.
I really hope not.
Do we have a spectator handy for Book of Spectres in Hunterace hand? We do not.
All right, you're just gonna have to believe me here.
I believe you.
Good.
Blind faith.
Hunterace just kind of has an awkward hand here. He's a bunch of 2 and 4 minutes cost stuff.
Yeah. So what is he thinking about? Like future draws and like obviously you think about random outcomes, but I feel like his setup this turn isn't super strong.
I think he just wants to dig for his Hearthstone and Togwaggle.
Yeah. Is that the most important card right now?
I think so. We've already seen his Edwin, and there's really not much else that is game-winning instantaneously, putting you on the map for winning this game, like Hearthstone and Togwaggle is.
Now this, I'm very curious about this turn as well, where I like the Vendetta, I like the Dagger Poke. This is what I was curious about. Take advantage of tempo right now, because Jarla is a turn off of Warpathing 3 times, so that means your minions actually get a pretty substantial amount of damage in before Warpath is possible.
Honestly, using the coin that early kind of gave Hunterace a bunch of benefits. You know, turn 3 didn't have to worry about Militia Commander being coined out. Turn 5, he doesn't have to worry about going Warpath, Warpath, coin, Warpath.
Yeah. And Dynomatic here, not necessarily super fit. Dynomatic could actually just only kill a 1/1 sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a great play around everything that Jarla can do. If Hunterace elected to go like Evil Cable Rat over a 3/3, then Dynomatic becomes insane. So he just avoids that scenario.
So with 2 Warpaths in hand, I think Jarla, it looked like Jarla was considering a single Warpath into Weapons Project. Because if he's going to thumb the Warpath here, that's my first instinct, is that he wants to use a Warpath and Weapons Project. I think he obviously anticipates Hunterace moving to secondary. He does not know that Hunterace has moved to secondary, but I think with a Togwaggle scheme, Harris Jones, and Geppetto, you can assume that.
One of the bad things about Weapons Project in the later or in games 2 and games 3 is it can't hit a Waggle pick because Hunterace is setting it out. One of the good things about Weapons Project is there's no more Waggle pick, so you can just use it a lot more liberally.
Yeah. Gonna risk the Dynamatic. I think that could have ended disastrously if it pokes that 4-2 again.
Yes.
3-1 and 4-1 just living in the face of your Dynamatic.
It's just another calculated risk that Jarla is taking here. Hunterace still doesn't really have a powerful turn available to him. He has like a lot of okay kind of turns that he can take. We're really looking at this Book of Spectres being the thing that will boost the power level of Hunterace's hand right now.
I am curious when he's going to use Book of Spectres, because it seems to me like a spot where I don't really want to add too much more to the board. I mean, this turn is just quite efficient.
I think what Hunterace is saying is that he's going to keep going for these medium tempo plays until he knows that Jarla has removal for it, and then he's going to go for the committal to trying to find High Spare and Togwaggle. If he doesn't need Togwaggle, he's not going to go for it until he needs to.
And that Wrench Caliber draw, I feel like, is going to give Jarla a nice set of turns here, where he can Warpath now. If Hunterace doesn't have big stuff to add to the board, which is quite unlikely on turn 7, he gets to set up Wrench Caliber with Acolyte of Pain.
Next turn, we go swing again into Blast Master.
Ooh, I think that Wrench Caliber draw may have just made his hand a winning hand.
It's going to come down to what Hunterace gets off this Book of Spectres. If he gets a Togwaggle, super in the game. Geppetto Joy Buzz.
Yeah, but that doesn't come down now.
Yes, that's the problem.
I think Hunterace needed pressure this turn.
I'm not sure yet. We're going to have one more turn before the Blastmaster Boom comes down. If that Geppetto Joy Buzz finds something really good.
Ooh, now, to me...
Spirit of the Shark.
Okay, now things have really shaken up, because Hunterace can set up the Spirit of the Shark so that Jarla cannot weapon it down, and he gets Geppetto Joy Buzz for 4 minions the turn after that.
Remember, he's already seen 1 Warpath and 1 Dynamatic. Those are the only answers to Spirit of the Shark in Jarla's deck, besides a Brawl, which is not going to be active here.
Now, the Ziliak's no attack, I think, plays very strong against a Wrench Caliber. And I think it's one of the reasons that Hunterace is going this direction, is he wants to keep pressuring life total. He has enough minions in hand that if he played Geppetto after the Shark, he'd be going up to...
9
cards? Yeah, so that's not accounted for. Interesting. So he's just favoring pressure over the value in this spot. He says, I can get value from Spirit of the Shark Geppetto later on. Or maybe he just doesn't need that. Maybe that's too much.
Maybe he's saying that getting 4 1-cost minions off Geppetto isn't as good as like getting an Evil Miscreant off the Geppetto, then using Spirit of the Shark. Because
you want to utilize the Spirit of the Shark immediately. You don't necessarily want to risk it. He's actually avoiding like a second Dynomatic or a second Warpath here, shredding his hand away, I feel like.
I mean, you were talking about Wrench Caliber being very poor against Ziliak, so he's still kind of playing around the worst-case scenario of Wrench Caliber into Blastmaster Boom.
I think this is a good example of what I was describing yesterday as well, which is a lot of the best players in the world, they simply want to avoid situations where they can lose as a result of their play. And I think with the Spirit of the Shark, if the Dynamite comes down, you are way in bad spot after that.
Absolutely. Jarla's just going for minion pressure here. He gets another Dr. Boom. That's pretty important. All right, so my hot take. Hunterace has 8 mana. Geppetto with Joy Buzz is 8 mana.
I don't know, Gallon.
He spots it.
That's a tough play.
8 mana used on turn 8.
Oh, Novice.
Ooh! That's the important one. Okay.
Spirit of the Shark, Evil Cable Rat, High Spare and Togwaggle next turn.
That's what he's saving Spirit of the Shark for.
To get better value later on. Don't risk it for...
This makes so much sense.
Don't risk it for strong value now. Get a better guaranteed payoff later.
He forced Jarla off Wrench Caliber into Blastmaster Boom. Still has Spirit of the Shark. Gets double treasures off of High Spare and Togwaggle.
That's just a beautiful turn.
Yeah, I think Hunterace sequences very nicely.
It looks easy to just play Geppetto and, of course, draw High Spare and Togwaggle in your almost mono minions deck. But if you think about Evil Miscreant coming up there, if you think about Henchclan Burglar coming up in that spot,
Choose soon.
you think about Evil Cable Rat showing up in that spot, Blink Fox, Novice Engineer, all of his battle cries are extra cards, typically.
Yeah, I don't think turn 8 was a turn that was played well, even though it makes a lot of sense. I think it was the turn before that really set up for it quite nicely.
Not being greedy with Shark.
Jarla's still in a weird spot.
I think that Jarla needs something good to happen. And so what I'm looking at is you want to kill Geppetto. You just really don't want to get clocked for 6. But he doesn't want a Warpath. And so that's an interesting turn to me, is one of the things I was mostly thinking about was 2 Warpaths, bump the Acolyte, use Militia Commander. You clear off the board, you seed tempo back over to Hunterace, and that's dangerous.
You see tempo back over to Hunterace.
That
is not what he wants to do.
And so he's setting up the Dr. Boom Mad Genius saying, I'm going to take this damage. I'm not going to worry about it. I have 2 Brawls in hand. I have a weapons project. I can stay alive. I need to swing back the board in my favor, and the only way he can do that is by investing now and eating the damage.
Jarla has 2 Brawls. So what that means is he needs to take this turn to play as Dr. Boom, because it's probably going to be the only turn in the game where he's not facing down lethal amounts of damage. And since he has a Brawl, Hunterace playing more minions is just playing into that scenario.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I think that Hunterace didn't get the best lackey here, but I'm not sure if it's going to matter. Two treasures is very good.
I think 4 damage to face is the best lackey.
Ethereal lackey could be 24 damage to face with 2 head cracks.
He takes 2 different treasures too as well.
I think
Ooh, Togwaggle scheme.
you can't use it this turn.
No. I wanted the Heist Baron.
I think Hunterace is saying, yes, I have 2 treasures.
Well, I'm talking about the viewer perspective.
Yeah. Oh, well, Xerox Crown can pull Heist Baron Togwaggle. In fact, it's a lot more likely than a neutral legendary. Right. You're more likely to find rogue legendaries.
It's about 4 times more likely to find a class-specific card in comparison to a regular card.
Yes, remember when you discover legendaries, you are offered only your class's legendaries alongside neutrals. I think that Rogue actually doesn't have great legendaries in their pool. You know, like Hunter has King Crush, for example.
Yeah. Rogue has Growl the Shark and
Edwin Van Cleef and Face Collector.
And Myra.
They're 2/2s.
Like, not the unstable element. You can't put that into play. But the 4/2 that gains the death rattle whatever it discovers, the battle cry that it has does not activate.
It's got a couple good ones. It's got
Tack Noswhisker,
Tack Noswhisker is very good, and then Test Greymane is just a big thing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, you're just summoning 2 5/5s and 6/6s, and that's totally okay.
Yeah. I found it exceptionally fun with Tack specifically, or Tack Noswhisker. It's a weird name. Whenever you shuffle a card in your deck, you put a copy in your hand. That I've discovered schemes and discovered that I have never actively put both of those cards in the same deck.
A couple people qualified for Las Vegas through Open Cups with Tack Noswhisker Prep Academic Espionage.
Yes!
I made that. I think 2 people did. Leroy.
Crown fit for a king. Or a queen.
Countess Ashmore, if you shuffle that in, do you get any Rush, Lifesteal, or Death Rattle minions?
The Rush minions in deck are Ziliax. Lifesteal minions in deck are Ziliax. There are no Death Rattle minions in the deck.
He removed Waggle Pick, which could be a card you get off of Countess Ashmore.
And Ziliax is gone as well.
I just want to point out that it says Death Rattle card.
Yes.
So you can pull a Waggle Pick, even though it's not a minion.
It's like Violet Haze. One of the first times I played that card, I got a weapon with Death Rattle. And I went, I didn't realize you could do that.
That's quite nice. Thank you, Violet Haze.
Ooh.
That's a weapon.
Gorehowl is just 7 damage. It's the warrior version of Pyroblast, 7 mana 7 damage instead of 10 mana 10 damage.
Sometimes it kills a minion. It used to be used for killing minions. As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
What kind of dummy would put 2 Gorehowls in a deck to kill minions?
Not me. 14 damage upstairs. You ever run that in Pirate Warrior?
Yes, I did. It was bad.
But it was fun.
It was fun.
Sometimes it's more important to have fun than win the game. I don't think that's the case here. I think it's very important.
I think it's important for both. And the Jarla, I feel like in this particular game, is not necessarily having fun. I feel like he is having to expend valuable resources on boards that Hunterace is creating by happenstance.
I mean, another thing to consider is that if Jarla ever gets a good mech, Hunterace can just Togwaggle scheme that good mech, like Omega Devastator. Hunterace could just have 5 Omega Devastators in his deck.
So Beryllium Nullifier comes in hand for Jarla. That was part of the Rise of the Mechs, where it received a buff. It is now a 4/8 mech instead of a 3/8 mech.
We still haven't seen it. we still haven't seen it see play by itself, but it has made cards like Omega Assembly and even Dr. Boom much better.
Yeah.
Delivery Drone, Omega Assembly have gotten quite good now, I would say. Security Rover as well, as you were mentioning.
I think Security Rover was okay before. Just, 6 mana. The 6 mana spot is always feels so weird because I want to like Brawl and then Security Rover.
6 mana is not a card that you want to be a 2/6. Sometimes it's good, but you want to hit your opponent in your face with it, in their face with it. You know, Heistbear and Togwaggle cost 6 mana.
Oh my! Oh!
We can just shuffle Leroy Jenkins into our deck.
How much damage does he have here? Gorehowl Leroy is 13. Life Drinker's 3 more. I think that Hunterace can hang on to this Gorehowl Leroy combo and catch Jarla by surprise.
Absolutely. The 7 damage. Oh my!
Mind Blast!
Gosh! This is not just lethal now, right?
It's not.
11.
It's 14 right now.
It's 14 right now.
Any way you slice it, it is 14.
No, Evil Miscreant could pull
He doesn't have time.
I think this is a mistake. I actually think we were supposed to go for Evil Miscreant here. We start with a Life Drinker.
He doesn't have time, though.
I know. Well, I'm saying is that we need to do this turn a little bit earlier. If we get a Kobold Lackey, that was exact lethal. We had the mana for it.
So your advice is play faster?
I would say that he came to the right conclusion, but it was just a couple seconds too late.
My goodness. I mean, I look at it, and Evil Miscreant and Life Drinker are clearly what I want to play this turn.
Yes.
But I have to consider hand space. I have to consider surprise factor. Gorehowl's the hardest card in this hand to use. I think that where he landed is okay.
I think it's okay, but I wouldn't say it was the best play here. Sometimes you can get away in Hearthstone with doing an okay play instead of the optimal play. In fact, that happens all the time. Playing optimally in Hearthstone is incredibly difficult.
It's also quite unprovable and almost undiscoverable.
I think here, the argument for it is strong enough where you could say that Hunterace did not make the greatest play. I think what he landed on should still win the game.
Yes.
But
he knows the direction.
He's giving Jarla an out that he's giving Jarla extra outs here, I would say. Didn't hit the Gorehowl. Imagine if Hunterace just passed with a 7 attack.
Oh, that would have been the worst.
Yeah.
There's Harry and there's Weapons Project. You do not set Gorehowl pass. 2, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 3 extra damage needs to come out this turn if Hunterace is going to win. He has 11 with Leroy Mind Blast. He has 3 more with Life Drinker and 2 with the Weapons Project.
So you're looking at Kobold Lackeys and Goblin Lackeys.
Yeah. He has 16 damage. Seizable this turn. Harrison in hand. 10 cards in hand. Togwaggle's Scheme in hand. 2 Evil Miscreants in hand. How is Jarla going to survive?
By Hunterace not playing his cards. I doubt that's going to happen.
That is very unlikely. I think if a meteor struck Hunterace's house right now, he's going to finish this game.
That belongs in a museum.
He's just the Terminator, man.
Shadow Step! Shadow Step Leroy, 12, 14. He doesn't have the mana for it, but he has the setup now.
Yes. Yes, he has the setup. Jarla has no way of getting out of it right now.
Dude, I do not see how Warrior's favored. I really don't get it.
We got 1 Lackey off that. That's probably fine.
He's considering hand space. He was like, I need to play more stuff. I need to force my opponent to handle everything and not have time to armor up. And so this is the best play if hand space is your main consideration.
It's going to come down to this draw. That is not armor.
If Jarla somehow got out of this situation, I'd be darn impressed, but that's impossible looking at it face up.
Yeah, I think Hunterace is taking this 2-0.
Unless Hunterace fails to spot lethal next turn, there is no way Jarla can survive.
Telling Hunterace to fail to spot lethal, that is a magical Christmas land scenario, I would say.
That's like telling a puppy not to be cute. Just doesn't work that way.
Darn you, cute puppy.
Well, I'm impressed by the cute puppy. It's cute.
Sure.
I'm impressed by Hunterace spotting lethal every single time it's available.
So you say Hunterace killing his opponent is like a cute puppy.
In a roundabout way.
It gives you the same emotional feeling.
No.
Nah, it probably does. I'm just going to say it does.
The gal's like, no, I'm pretty sure I know how you feel.
Hunterace wins this game with a couple cute doggos. Oh, they're all going to die. But he's going to win this game. Leroy, Mind Blast, Shadow Step.
Oh, by the way, that's only 2 mana so far. Hunterace Another Shadow Step. He's almost through the entirety of the deck. Don't you tell me that Warrior's favored in these. It is not. I don't care what the data says. I don't care what anyone thinks. Every single time I see this matchup, I play this matchup, I watch this matchup, I hear about this matchup, the Rogue is the one winning. Every time.
Oh my gosh. Top deck, the Shadow Step for even more damage. We're still looking at, what, 5 over?
Oh, there's only 8 left in hand.
You know, just Mind Blast Scorehowl your opponent.
Plus the Evil Miscreant.
Hunter
Plus
is just
the
showing
Giant.
us what we're supposed to do.
Plus the Scheme.
Yeah.
Decimating Jarla in this match. Hunterace picking up a crucial win as well. He has had a pretty rocky start here in Grandmasters, where now he sits at an even-looking score after that match. And that's something that Hunterace certainly does not anticipate, and I don't think that any of us anticipated. We're talking the current world champion right now, but he's up against the elite of the elite. Every single week, he's got to come in some way to have an edge in the matchup. That is a tall order that only a few players, I think, have executed so far.
I think one edge Hunterace has in this matchup is that he is practice partners with Jarla. They've been playing together on non-stop pretty much for the last year and a half as Team Nordavind. He probably knows how Jarla approaches the game, and he can abuse that a little bit.
And Hunterace is ready for an interview. Hunterace, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Congratulations on your win today, bud. This was a big one, I think, that you needed to pick up. And you did it with a signature deck of yours with the Water Rogue. I really like the way this deck is built overall, but talk to me about your thoughts on it. How did you come up with this one in particular, and then also the secondary and tertiary lists?
I mean, the Water Rogue is really just a bit of a different Shark Rogue. The Sea Giant idea, I kind of theory crafted together with my teammates, mainly NTR, when we were playing, because what we saw with the Shark deck was that a lot of the time you have these very good combo turns where you go Shark into the Miscreants or the Cable Rats. And one of the problems in those cases was that we ended up with only 1 attack minions on board, and we felt like board locked, and we didn't pressure that much. And a lot of those situations, Sea Giant was just super good. And both in the Rogue Mirror and versus Mage, a lot of the time it's based around both players going very wide, and people want to go face a lot, especially with like mirror images with Mage. So it was just a very natural fit in the deck, we felt like.
Talk to me about prepping with teammates in this one. You know, your teammates with Jarla, and I imagine this week it has to be a little bit difficult. Did you prepare with Jarla in this one, or did you guys have to go in your separate ways to practice?
Yeah, we go separate ways when we play against each other. Normally, I practice with him, and we make sure that we're both on like good routes. And yeah, it's a bit difficult because we always face different opponents, right? So the practice isn't. It's not like when we prepare for a big field tournament where we most of the time end up with the same conclusion that we want to do this lineup, because now we actually have to factor in that our opponents are most of the time not capable of playing all the decks, so you can narrow it down to specific decks. So it's kind of a different preparation for each opponent you get.
We noticed that Henchclan Burglar in both of your games mattered a lot. You got a lot of good spells like Book of Specters. Do you think that card is particularly good versus Warrior?
It's fine. It's all right. The thing that matters against Warrior the most is that you just keep on holding consistent pressure, because if you ever get behind or you don't do anything in one turn, it becomes super hard for you, because Warriors, the matchup is super tempo based. Whoever is fighting behind all the time has a very big struggle. And you saw in both of those games, I got pretty fortunate in the beginning and managed to get ahead of it. I was super torn in the second game about going in with the Edwin, because it's a very big deal to just play a 4/4 Edwin out there, because it's one of the biggest win cons, because they only have roll to answer it. But at the same time, I felt that if I played it slower, I would have just gotten curved out. And then if they curve out into Boom and are ahead, I just can't win the matchup. So you just have to do everything to stay ahead.
Jarl actually mulliganed Blastmaster Boom in game 1. What kind of starts are you fearing most from the Warrior side? I guess is my question. I feel like when I've played that matchup, one of my biggest win conditions is just playing bomb cards into Blastmaster Boom and having that be enough pressure.
Yeah, I don't know. I imagine that Jarla would rather go for the early start and then hopefully draw into Boom, instead of just keeping the Boom and hoping for the early cards. It's a bit more likely the other way around. But the most important thing is to get ahead, because I think that in this game, this game, for example, it wouldn't have been good if Jarl had, like, either of the boom weren't that good, because he was never ahead, right? So he was just playing from behind. And if you have to use a turn on playing one of the booms, it's super hard. And also, what you can do in the early game is that you can try to make their bomb cards weaker by playing aggressive, so he never actually gets to play out the bomb cards. He needs to play the Phantom Militias or the Dynamatics, and then the Bootmaster isn't that good on 7 either. You just want to try to keep up the pressure and make it hard for him to play. I feel a bit sad for Jarla that game. I felt that I felt like I drew a bit over average, I would say. So it was a bit unfortunate for him.
All right, well, I've been instructed to let you go, but I have a final question for you on Las Vegas and coming up. How has the patch affected that, and are you coming up with something crazy there, or are we going to just see good old Hunterace playing good stuff?
I'm probably going to do something special for Vegas. I didn't really want to reveal anything special this week, because you kind of have to factor in like how much you want to, if you want to leak stuff for Vegas, or if you want to make like the best deck for this week. So maybe I have something in my sleeve for Vegas, yeah.
Well, I'm hoping you got an ace up your sleeve. Hunter, congratulations on your win, and look forward to seeing you play in Vegas.
Hey, thanks, guys.
He's so thoughtful. Everything he says is just so succinct and clear that, considering the job that I do, I'm often jealous that he could put it into such clean words when he says it. But I think a lot of time and effort goes into making that thought clear, and I think that's reflected when he speaks about the game.
I mean, if you look back at turn 3, game 2, when he made a 4-4 Edwin, he just said it right there. His thoughts were going at a mile a minute, and he determined in 25 seconds that the Edwin was right.
And it looked right.
It was right.
It gave him tempo.
Absolutely.
And he kept tempo, and that yielded value. So that means our first match is in the books, and it was our first rematch that we've had here in European Grandmasters, Jarla versus Hunterace, where Hunterace is able to take it, which means that we're moving on to RDU versus Swids, a second rematch that we have coming up here, which means 4 more matches are left on the day, so stay tuned. After this break, we'll be getting into that one.